More viewers.
Yes. Please.
David,
This is a special invitation.
תודה.
Diana.
Diana.
תפעלו נרב שבולי. יש שויה.
Il parle toutes les langues.
Amen. Don't join the funds, we have enough funds.
There's competition, that's it.
Don't join the funds, please. They make it better guy.
I see, he speaks French,
They took over the minyan slowly.
Baruch Hashem, ישתבח שמו.
Yeah.
כאשר יענו אותו, כן ידע וכן יפרוץ. בפרנץ', יפרוץ.
Next party.
All right, good morning everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back here. I wish Rabbi Yasher would have called me under different circumstances, but he met me by the shloshim of my brother and asked me to come speak the Sunday before the shloshim. So we're speaking today, many times we hear stories about people, and especially if we hear stories that make people sound like tzaddikim, we think that we must be talking about somebody from 200-300 years ago. Not something people who live in our generation. And I have to admit that during the Shiva of my brother, Rabbi Yonah, alav shalom, some of you may have heard of him, he was the founder when he was 18, 19 years old. He started an organization called Sichos in English. It's translating all the Sichot of the Rebbe in English. Some of you may know his new work, the translation of the Shulchan Aruch Harav in English, the white set, Shulchan Aruch Harav, many other Hasidic discourses of the Rabbeim. He started this when he was a young boy, and that became his lifetime mission. In addition to that, he did many other things. We, among siblings, we sometimes used to make fun of him. He would hang up in the middle of a conversation. He wouldn't give you the time of the day. Rabbi Yasher knows maybe when he called him for shidduchim, right? You didn't even have a chance to finish the conversation. He said, "Hello, I'll speak to you tomorrow." He already finito, right? And I was speaking in my shul. I'm the Rabbi of a Moroccan shul in Crown Heights, Sephardi shul. So it's a mixture of many Edot, but we daven nusach Moroccan. And I was speaking there on Shabbat after he passed away, and I said, he checked out from life almost the way he hung up the telephone. He sat on the couch, and he had mitani shikin, he had the kiss of Aaron HaKohen. He passed away to the point that his children saw him in the morning when they came down. He wasn't feeling well in the middle of the night. So he came down to sit on the couch. He put a heat pad on his shoulder to warm him up a little bit. And his children came down in the morning to work on the computer. They saw that he was sleeping. They were so happy to see him sleeping that they made sure not to make any noise. His son came to go to yeshiva in the morning. He saw that he fell asleep with his shoes under his feet. So he picked up his feet, put away the shoes, and said that's not to sleep. A little morning, he went to yeshiva. They didn't know that he had already passed away in his sleep. He had a massive heart attack and passed away in his sleep. But so I was speaking in shul, and I said, he just checked out. He didn't say goodbye, nothing. And then somebody comes over to me in the Beit Knesset, and he says to me, Rabbi, I think you didn't know your brother. So I said, really? Tell me what I didn't know about him. Your brother would stop me on the street, offer me a ride, ask me how I'm doing, speak to me about my family, how's my shalom bayit, how are my kids, shidduchim. Every time he brought out a new book, he would come to bring me the book to my house. And my brother wasn't in this for the sales. He was the first person to put all of his books online for free, because he wanted to make the books available for people to learn and to connect to Torah HaChasidut. He wasn't interested for money. Some bookstores, they have sales 40%, by Hey Tevet, once a year, twice a year. His books were 70% off all the time. He basically would cover the cost of the printing and all the fundraising for the research, the editing, the layout, the design, all of that would be from fundraising. So anyway, so this guy comes over to me and says, "You didn't know your brother?" He says, this person tells me, he's a doctor. He says, "I would only give 2 mishloach manot a year in Crown Heights. 2 mishloach manot every year. One of them was to your brother." I said, "Really? What's your connection? Besides that, he came to you as a doctor sometimes because he's a neurologist." He said he's the only person in Crown Heights who made me feel like I'm a somebody, like I'm worth something. And that's a big compliment, because in Crown Heights, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of love, and we have a lot of nice people who go out of their way to do a lot of chesed, like in every Jewish community. And I was surprised to hear that. And through the course of Shiva, I heard more and more and more stories about him. And you know that it's now before the Shloshim, we say, "V'hachai yitena libo." V'hachai yitena libo means that we're supposed to think about who the person was and talk about him and try to eternalize his memory by doing good things in his memory. But I decided that there's a whole other explanation to V'hachai yitena libo. Unfortunately, many of us, we wait till achrei mot, kiddushim emor. Somebody passes away, say, "Allah, kel tzaddik, what a neshama, what a great person he was." You have no idea who this person was. You start hearing stories, but it's only la'achrei mot, kiddushim emor. After they pass away, we start saying kiddushim. They were nice people. But really, the meaning of v'hachai yitena libo means that we have to appreciate people when they are alive and find what's the good in them when they are alive. And I was telling my siblings, and I was even telling some of his children, some of my nieces and nephews. He left 12 children and a young wife. I told them that you know, if you take orange and you squeeze an orange, what's going to come out of it? Orange juice, not lemon juice, not grapefruit juice, not apples, right? Only orange. Why? Because that's what's inside of it. What happens when somebody squeezes me? Somebody starts up with me. Somebody...
Nature's going to come out.
Hopefully the nature is going to come out. The question is, which nature? What's really inside of me? Is inside of, am I be'etzen a good person? Or am I be'etzen mean, angry, vindicative type of individual that when you say one word to me that ticks me the wrong way, I start screaming at you and I start telling you, right? It's not that. What should come out is good. So if you started off with me, for whatever reason, you know, we say, Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem, yesterday's parsha. The Zohar HaKadosh says, what does it mean, Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifneihem? What's lifneihem? Zohar HaKadosh says that lifneihem, it's a payback from a previous Gilgul. What does it mean? That means that maybe I borrowed money from Rabbi Asher, and he trusts me because we're friends, and he didn't do a shtar. Or he brought two people and not realizing that they're brother-in-laws, and therefore one of them is pasul leidut. And then I fell on hard times and I can't pay him back, and I'm looking for an excuse not to pay back the money. And I said, Rabbi Asher, I don't know what you're talking about. Didn't happen. Takes me to Bedin. There's a check. We can see he gave the money, right? Sorry. You have proof? You have shtar? No shtar. You have edin? Not kasher leidut. Rabbanim say, mistaber that you got money from him, but maybe it was a gift. I don't know. I see a check. Maybe it was a gift. One time I loaned someone money, in my better days, I loaned someone money Erev Pesach. The marshals came to his house to cut off his electricity, his gas. They wanted to take his furniture away. They wanted to throw him out of his apartment. He came to me Erev Pesach crying. I gave him a check of $25,000. He told me, 3 months I'm paying you back. A year later, 2 years later, he didn't pay me back. I took him to the Bedin. Bedin said, sorry. He says, you gave it to him as a gift. He says, you're a nice guy. We have a copy of the check. We gave it as a gift. We have to accept. Zohar HaKadosh tells us, you hear this word? Lifneihem, it's from a previous generation. Why? Because maybe in a previous generation, I owed him money, and I didn't pay him back. And now HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's the master architect of the world, right? We say Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. He knows best. The master architect from the world, he's saying, listen, you still did not do a tikkun on your neshama. And the only way you can do a tikkun on your neshama is now by paying him back the money. Sometimes a couple comes to a Rav, and they're getting divorced, and the husband says, why should I give her half of the house? Why should I live half her money? I worked hard, she didn't do anything. Maybe in a previous lifetime you were married to the same neshama, and she worked hard and you were sitting doing nothing the whole day, you were walking the streets. Now, it's not a question of who's right or who's wrong. The master architect made it this way that now you have to pay back, because that's the tikkun of your neshama. V'achai yitein libo tells us now, v'achai yitein libo, appreciate somebody for who they are when they are alive. Why? Because if he met a stranger on the street, he made sure to say hello to him, he made sure to talk to him, he made sure to ask him how he was. And if he didn't like the answer, he would text his wife later and say, is everything really okay? And text her too. And you would say, how does this person even have time for all of this? He was, not only was he the publisher, he was the editor-in-chief. The Rebbe told him, and he asked the Rebbe once if he could give out a certain book. The Rebbe told him, only if you take personal achrayut for every word that's in there. So he would check over every single word. I heard a story during the Shiva that when he was in the hospital a year and a half ago, he was given wrong medication, which shut out his kidneys, knocked out his kidneys, totally shut them down. He had to be on dialysis, and he never recovered. A year and a half later, he passed away from whatever it was, but like we say, Baruch Dayan Emet, we don't know, but it should have never really happened, as far as we know. But it happened, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it that way. He was in the hospital, Erev Pesach, and the children, they asked the doctor, he was sleeping, they thought he was sleeping. They asked the doctor, what's the prognosis? The doctor said, it will be a miracle if he makes it to the Seder. It was 2 days before Pesach, or a day before Pesach. It will be a miracle if he makes it to the Seder. 15 minutes later, he gets up, and he pulls over his manuscripts from the Shulchan Aruch Harav, and he starts editing his papers. Doctor says, Rabbi, you should be resting now. He said, listen, I heard what you said. If I only have a few hours left, I have work to finish. He didn't think about family, calling his kids, writing a will, calling a lawyer, tell them how they should do things, who should take over his organization, who should do this. I have work to do, I have things to finish up. Because a person is busy. So someone like me, who's his brother, or someone like Rabbi Asher, who he considered a good friend, he said, you know what, I have things to do. I don't have time to, how are you, Shalom Aleichem, everything good, and the kids, and the wife, and again, right, you know, how we do in Morocco. Bonjour, ça va bien, la femme ça va, la mère ça va, tout le monde, les enfants bien, everyone's good, okay, and how are you? Right? So, you know what I'm talking about, right? So he didn't have time for that. For the stranger, he did. But for the brother or the friend, he didn't. Why? Because he was on a mission. He had things to do. He had things to accomplish, and he was busy. Doctor says you have 3 hours left. He has work to do. He doesn't have time to, hello, okay, you sure, really? Okay, tell me more. No, he hung up the phone, goodbye, on to the next thing. But he was able to do that with his friends and his children and his siblings because he thought or he expected that they would appreciate that he's a no-nonsense person and a busy man and he doesn't have time for luft, for things that are seemingly meaningless, not important in life. But for the stranger who might be offended, chas v'shalom, that This guy doesn't even give me the time of the day. He hangs up the phone on me. He makes sure to talk to him and stop him on the street and offer him a ride and help him out and this and that. There was a lady who met one of my sisters a week after Shiva. She says, "Oh, your brother, I'm going to miss him so much." She said that when he would see her in the store shopping, she didn't have a car, she didn't drive. He would offer her a ride home and take her home with her groceries. So I said, "Who's the lady?" Tells me who the lady is. I said, "I think she's talking about me. If she sees me on the street, she's going to think he had Chiyat HaMetim, because I'm the one who took her home." So I went to the lady's house. I was just curious for myself to know, and I said, "Are you sure you were talking about Yona or you're talking about me?" So she says, "No, you and Yona." He also did it. And I was shocked because we never knew him as the person who would go out of his way to take someone with groceries. Unfortunately, we didn't know that about him. And we're learning to see what a great person he was. So Rabbi Yasher was by the Shiva, and he said to me, "Rabbi Lazer, I'd really like you to come and a few words just to talk about what does it mean that we have people in today's generation who are truly giants." Rabbi Lebel Groner, the Rebbe's chief secretary, came to the Shiva. He said that he thinks that in the history of the Jewish people, my brother was probably the biggest Marbitz Torah of Hasidut in the world. And he was saying that perhaps this was a gzeira against him, that Mila, because he spread so much, because you have to understand, he started in 1986. 1986 was the first year that people started giving out anything in English, anything on Torah in English. Even Art Scroll only started in 1986. There was nobody before that. Everything was in Hebrew. So if somebody spoke any other language besides Ivrit, they couldn't learn. And most translations in French, in Spanish, in Russian are based off of the English translations, not off of the Hebrew, because it's hard for people to understand the Hebrew or the Aramaic. So if somebody is learning Torah today in any other language besides the original, it's probably in some way or another thanks to his pioneering work of being one of the first people to come out and give out Torah to make it accessible to other people. Before Sichot in English, people would come to Farbrengen, they didn't understand a word of Yiddish. The Rebbe would speak for 4 hours, 5 hours, and the people say, "What are you doing here? You don't understand Yiddish." He said, "The Neshama understands, the Neshama understands." But they didn't understand the Neshama. But by giving out these works, he connected people to finally have an appreciation, to be able to connect. The Rebbe writes in Hayom Yom that if somebody wants to connect to a tzaddik, the way they connect to a tzaddik is by learning his Torah, by learning his teachings. And this is what he did. And it's just interesting. Even today's Hayom Yom, the Hayom Yom of today talks about that some people think that the way to deal with our nefesh habahamit and our guf is to beat it and to not to feed the body, to deprive ourselves. But Baruch Hashem, now we're here by a breakfast and learn, right? So we learn from Hasidut that on the contrary, teaches us that we have to take the guf and we have to clean out the guf by fixing the guf, not by beating it up and breaking it apart. Because if we break it apart, then we won't be able to do our mission in life. We won't be able to do Torah mitzvot. But if we clean the guf, we're careful what we eat, we're careful how much we eat, we make a bracha lefaneha, we make a bracha la'achreha, we make sure to bench in the same place where we washed, right? And not to run out in the middle and those stuff like that. Then we fix the guf, that the guf helps the neshama to bring godliness into this world. And this is something that we're all able to do. Because the same way I thought my brother was just my brother, just another guy. I was very close to him, spoke every day, sometimes 5 times a day. especially the last year that he was running to doctors every week, 5 times a week, 4 times a week. I was going with him. I was with him in the hospital a month before. And as much as I thought I knew him, we didn't know him. And as much as his children thought they knew him, they didn't even know him. Why? Because he was on a mission. And every one of us could be on that same mission. Perek Lamed Vav of Tanya, I'll finish in 2 minutes because I know it's 10 o'clock we're supposed to finish. Perek Lamed Vav of Tanya, it talks about the difference if a person is living their life for Hashem or they're living their life for themselves. Someone who lives his life for Hashem, so everything that he does is for Hashem. Someone who's living his life for himself, he might do Torah and mitzvot. He might be a great Talmid Chacham. He might be all the good things in life that we strive for. But he's doing it for his kavod, he's doing it for his name, he's doing it to make a parnasah. But at the end of the day, he's not really doing it because he wants Hashem. Yonah, alav shalom, was on a mission for Hashem. And he didn't care what people thought about him. And he didn't care what people spoke behind his back. And he didn't care if people made fun of him. Why? Because if you squeeze the orange, only good is going to come out. Only the Eibishter's mission, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mission, and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us in this world will come out. And that ties into the Parsha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can live inside each one of us. But how? Only if we bring him inside. If we leave HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Beit Midrash, and the minute we go away from the Shir, we forget about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we say, till Mincha, I got time now. Then we don't have a Beit Mikdash. V'shachanti b'tocham b'toch kol echad ve'echad. שהקדוש ברוך הוא יברך את כל אחד ואחד, והקדוש ברוך הוא should each and every one of us that we should be a walking Beit HaMikdash. We should carry Hashem with us. Amen. We should carry the mission with us. Amen. We should do, and we shouldn't have to worry. And we should be healthy and have Chayim Arukim, Ubirut Nechona, Adbiyat God Tzedek, today Bezrat Hashem. Not till Mincha, now, right now. Amen.
Amen.